Tonight, the worst fears confirmed for an American family and the American family. Kayla Mueller is dead.
Kayla's calling was to help those who were suffering, whether in her hometown of Prescott or on the other side of the world.
David Martin has what we know about how she died in the hands of ISIS, and we'll look back at her extraordinary life. Buried in Boston, Jerika Duncan on the city reaching the breaking point.
Just the whole ceiling just came in like a freight train. We just ran.
As the measles outbreak spreads, Jim Axelrod looks at the fears and facts about vaccinating kids.
It looks like he has a weapon.
And John Blackstone has the great escape attempt.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
Good evening. In just a few short days, America came to know Kayla Mueller and her too short life that was dedicated to helping people in need. So today, when her family confirmed that she had died as a captive of ISIS, the entire country shared their pain that was visible on the faces of her friends and relatives. Mueller was captured by the Islamic terrorist group in Syria in the summer of 2013. David Martin now on how her family learned of her death.
There is no good way to find out your 26-year-old daughter has been killed. But surely an email from ISIS with a picture of her body is one of the worst. By Monday morning, intelligence analysts had confirmed that it was Kayla Mueller and that she had died recently, although the exact cause of her death could not be determined. It was a tragic end for a young woman described by her aunt Lori Lyon as noble beyond her years.
She has done more in her incredible 26 years than many people could ever imagine doing in their lifetime. Kayla has touched the heart of the world. The world grieves with us.
Last spring, in this handwritten letter from her prison, she told her parents, "If you could say I have suffered at all throughout this whole experience, it is only in knowing how much suffering I have put you all through. I have a lot of fight left inside of me. I am not breaking down, and I will not give in no matter how long it takes." ISIS claims she was killed last Friday when this building was struck by Jordanian warplanes on the second day of raids ordered in retaliation for the gruesome execution by fire of a downed Jordanian pilot. U.S. officials said the building was a weapons storage facility located in a compound south of the ISIS stronghold of Raqqa. They had no indication Kayla Mueller was ever held in the building, but could not rule out the possibility she had been moved into it without their knowledge. Still, said Pentagon spokesman Admiral John Kirby,
let's not forget in whose hands this woman died. And let's not forget who's ultimately responsible for it, ISIL.
In an interview today, President Obama said Kayla Mueller was one of the hostages the U.S. tried to rescue with a raid into Syria last summer. But the hostages had been moved just a day or two before. 4 Americans were being held at the time, and now, Scott, all 4 are dead.
David Martin at the Pentagon tonight. David, thank you. We're going to have more about Kayla Mueller's remarkable life and that letter she sent home later in the broadcast. President Obama vowed to bring her killers to justice. He blames ISIS. And on the battlefield in northern Iraq, ISIS is murdering entire villages. Holly Williams is there.
In once peaceful farmland, these men showed us what they say is a mass grave.
How many bodies are buried here?
Eyewitnesses told us ISIS killed at least 50 Yazidi men here. And though we cannot verify what's buried under this mound, they told us the men were shot one by one and their shallow grave covered in dirt.
Did you know these men?
They were all from my village, said Naif Ibrahim Hoda. He believes his uncle and 2 of his cousins lie dead beneath the soil.
How did you survive?
We left in the early morning before ISIS arrived, he told us. Later on, they blocked the road and everyone else was captured. The Yazidis were hounded from their homes by ISIS in August, fleeing to nearby Mount Sinjar, where they faced starvation. It's thought thousands of Yazidi women were kidnapped and enslaved by the extremists. They can't give the bodies here a proper burial because the front line is just a few hundred yards away and ISIS still holds the next village. Kurdish fighters known as the Peshmerga are slowly clawing back territory from ISIS. They believe they can defeat the extremists and prevent more massacres. But they're outgunned by the militants and frustrated with their American allies.
We've lost more than 1,000 Peshmergas and somewhere around 5,000 have been wounded.
The Kurdish National Security Advisor Masroor Barzani told us 70% of those deaths were caused by car and roadside bombs, and many of them could have been prevented if his men had armoured vehicles. They've asked Washington for several hundred and have been given just 25.
Of course, they all praise the Peshmergas and thank us, but that is not enough. We need the equipment.
What do you say to the families of those men who have died, whose deaths were preventable?
These are our heroes, and we need to protect these heroes. And I think they are the heroes of the free world, and it's the responsibility of the international community to protect them.
President Obama is expected to go to Congress this week to ask for new authorization for the use of military force against ISIS. That authorization is expected to set a limit for the length of the conflict. And Scott, it will doubtless spark a debate on whether US ground troops should be deployed.
Holly Williams reporting for us tonight in Istanbul. Holly, thank you. Now, moving to another important story. It did stop snowing in Boston today, but not before the city was buried again. Nearly 72 inches in 17 days. If folks are not climbing the walls, they're climbing ladders to clear snow from roofs. Train service stopped, so commuters had no choice but to dig their cars out. Jerika Duncan is in Boston.
7-foot snow drifts piled on the roof of this piano store caused it to buckle and break. It happened early this morning when the store was closed. If it wasn't, owner Rob Norris says the outcome could have been much worse.
Well, I'm sure there would have been deaths, you know.
More than 24 roofs have collapsed across the state. We experienced how dangerous conditions can be.
We just heard something.
That's the ceiling, yeah, that's the roof.
So far, the city has had more than 40 inches of snowfall this month, making it the third snowiest February on record, with more than 2 weeks still to go. This is what people are up against. I'm 5'7", and many of these walls of snow are much taller than me. It's obvious when you take a look around, it will be a while before people get rid of all this snow, when they find somewhere to put it. The city is using snow melting machines to get rid of 400 tons per hour. Mayor Marty Walsh is calling on Bostonians to help each other.
I'm asking neighbors out there to please reach out to your neighbors. I've received a couple of texts from folks that reached out to the neighbor next door, didn't realize that they were homebound and needed some food and things like that.
Where's the door?
You're on it.
65-year-old Frank Hard's 8-foot shed is buried under the snow. He's been outside battling the winter weather every day for the last 2 weeks. If you get more snow on Thursday, what are you going to do?
Same thing I've done always. You know, just put it anywhere I can.
The city is making progress. Boston Public Schools will be open tomorrow, and tonight, Scott, the National Guard moves in with dump trucks and shovels to help remove some of the snow and dig out fire hydrants.
Jerika, thanks very much. Boston could get several inches of snow Thursday night into Friday. After that, another storm is expected to move in on Sunday night. In Alabama today, many local judges remain defiant 1 day after a federal court order made same-sex marriage legal. Chip Reed is there.
In Mobile, Alabama, the window was closed today at the office where marriage licenses are usually issued, leaving some same-sex couples disappointed. Licenses were also unavailable at the rural Pike County Courthouse in the small town of Troy. Probate Judge Wes Allen.
Pike County Probate Office is not going to be in the marriage licensing business altogether. We've decided to take ourselves out of that.
Out of it completely?
Yes, sir.
Was this hard for you to do?
Well, you know, you don't want to disappoint anybody, but at the same time, you've got those deeply held Christian beliefs that I do, and so it really was one that I slept well at night when I made the decision, you know, and I've had overwhelming support from the community since we made this announcement on Friday.
Not surprising in a state where only 32% support same-sex marriage, tied for lowest in the nation. Just yesterday, 54 of Alabama's 67 counties were not issuing licenses to same-sex couples, despite a federal ruling to do so. But in a surprising development, 13 judges have now reversed course, leaving 41 counties still holding out. One of those changing his mind is Judge John Enslin, who announced on his Facebook page yesterday that Elmore County will not be issuing same-sex marriage licenses. But today he said the dust has quickly settled, and it is clear to me that our federal Constitution, consistent with the federal district court's ruling, will be interpreted to provide a constitutional right to same-sex marriage on a national scale.
The next big step comes Thursday, Scott, when a group of same-sex couples will go to federal court and ask that federal judge to order the state judge to give them marriage licenses.
Chip Reed in Montgomery tonight. Chip, thanks very much. Well, here we go again. Experts are changing their recommendations about what we shouldn't eat. A government advisory panel has decided that we don't have to worry so much, after all, about cholesterol in our diets. So, Dr. John LaPook is here to sort this out for us. John, the panel says that cholesterol is no longer a nutrient of concern. What on earth does that mean?
Well, to be clear, the amount of cholesterol in your blood is still important. So the higher the cholesterol, the higher the bad cholesterol, the higher the risk of heart attack and other problems like that. But what the committee found was that the amount of cholesterol in your food doesn't necessarily translate to a higher level of cholesterol in your blood. So right now, the current recommendations say that people should have less than 300 milligrams of cholesterol in their diet a day. An egg has 200 milligrams. That's likely to change when the recommendations come out later this year.
So we can start eating all these high cholesterol foods again? It doesn't go right into the blood?
Absolutely not, actually, because it turns out there's never a free lunch or dinner. It turns out that the foods that are highest in cholesterol are also high in other bad things like saturated fats and trans fats, refined sugars, things like that. So overall, they're recommending that people consume more vegetables, more fruits, more whole grains, low-fat dairy, and lean meat, and they suggest reducing consumption of red and processed meats, sugary food and drinks, and refined grains.
All right, Doctor, thank you very, very much. CBS News has confirmed today that a New York City police officer has been indicted in the shooting death this past November of an unarmed, innocent man. Rookie Officer Peter Liang accidentally shot 28-year-old Akai Gurley in a dark stairwell in a Brooklyn apartment building. With measles spreading, what should parents know about the safety of vaccines? And the chase is on when the CBS Evening News continues. The measles outbreak has grown to at least 166 cases in 18 states and the District of Columbia. Despite overwhelming evidence that the vaccine is safe, some parents are still not convinced. So we asked Jim Axelrod to find out why.
To understand the anti-vaccine movement, meet Nicholas Wildman, 19 years old, 6 feet tall, and still in diapers with severe autism. This is video his parents showed Ed Bradley on 60 Minutes 15 years ago.
He played normally. He just said, Dada.
Nicky before the vaccine for his measles, mumps, and rubella that his parents blame for his autism.
I should never had him have that vaccine.
Compelling video, perhaps, but one problem. Science has discredited the link first floated by a British doctor named Andrew Wakefield in the journal Lancet in 1998.
There is no doubt, not that much, that there is no link between an MMR vaccination and autism.
Absolutely no doubt. MMR vaccine does not cause autism. It never made biological sense that it would, and now we have all the epidemiological studies showing that it clearly didn't.
Dr. Paul Offit, the director of the Vaccine Education Center at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, says since Wakefield's article, there have been 14 studies looking at hundreds of thousands of children on 3 continents that show no linkage.
Why did Dr. Wakefield's hypothesis get any traction at all?
Because we don't know what the cause or causes of autism was, and now he's got a reason, right? He's got a boogeyman.
Only in the view of science now, his boogeyman has been widely discredited.
It was just wrong.
The Lancet retracted the paper in 2010, The British Medical Journal called it, quote, an elaborate fraud, and Dr. Wakefield lost his license. But still, the fallout lingers, as we are seeing 17 years later with the current measles outbreak. The outbreak we're seeing right now can be directly related to Dr. Wakefield's theory?
No doubt about it. I think if you ask parents, why is it that you're hesitating to get this measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, I think many would say, I still think it's possible that this vaccine might cause autism.
I asked Dr. Offit, an early critic of Andrew Wakefield, if there wasn't some satisfaction in being right. And he said, no, this is not an I told you so moment, that whenever children suffer, there is nothing good about it. Scott?
Jim Axelrod reporting for us tonight. Jim, thanks very much. Did the U.S. Little League champions break the rules? We'll have that when we come back.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Viking River Cruises, exploring the world in comfort.
Police in Los Angeles had all they could handle last night. For 45 minutes, they chased a suspected car thief determined to escape, no matter who or what got in his way. Here's John Blackstone.
As he sped through LA's rush hour traffic, the driver of the stolen car took risk after risk.
Whoa, right there.
Police followed from the air.
Whoa!
As did KCBS TV reporter Stu Mundell.
Oh, there we go. Oh!
To try to keep from escalating the chase, police cars at first held back.
And LAPD not in pursuit.
Still, the driver sped down residential streets and through stop signs.
Look at this. Whoa, boom! There we go. Oh,
Even when it seemed the car was so battered it could go no further, the driver carried on.
Look at this. Wrong side of the road. Whoa! Whoa! Okay, there we go. Took two cars out. He's out. He's trying to run. Oh, he's trying to carjack somebody. And it looks like he has a weapon. He does. He's got a weapon. He's got a weapon. He's trying to carjack somebody, pulling a woman out of the car, taking another vehicle.
After the armed carjacking, police moved in closer.
He's wedged in there.
As he tried to take another car, officers opened fire.
The suspect is down. Suspect is down.
The driver is being treated for injuries that are described as non-life-threatening. He's identified as Aaron Lorda, 29 years old, and he's now being held on $100,000 bail. And Scott, no serious injuries have been reported from all of those collisions.
John, thank you very much. Little League baseball officials met today to consider whether the national champions broke the rules. They cited new information that the Jackie Robinson West team from Chicago may have added players from the suburbs. Players are supposed to live in the district they represent. A decision on whether the team will keep the title is expected soon. Late today, Jon Stewart made a surprise announcement during the taping of his Comedy Central program. He announced he will be stepping down from The Daily Show later this year, just the latest change in the late-night TV landscape. Stewart, who is 52, has been hosting that show since 1999 and will be right back. The Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl wrote, "Don't ask the meaning of life. Life is asking, what's the meaning of you?" Some answer by dedicating themselves to those who suffer, and many bright lights in the darkest places are Americans, like Kayla Mueller. We were struck today by the letter she sent home from her cell. It was so much like others written by those who would change the world, words from captivity that would far outlive them. When writing home from a terrorist cell, where do you start? Kayla Mueller started tight in the corner of her single precious page. Her first stroke predicted there would never be enough room to hold her thoughts. 2 rows on each line, margin to margin, which would have been well thought out, she writes, but I could only write the letter a paragraph at a time. Just the thought of you all sends me into a fit of tears. They had all said goodbye when she left college in 2011 to work with the suffering in India. Why the hurry? Another young woman writing in captivity, Anne Frank, answered in her diary, "Nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world." From India, Mueller worked with refugees in Israel and Palestine. Back in Arizona, she cared for AIDS patients and volunteered at night at a women's shelter. In 2013, she arrived at the Syrian border, the world's most dangerous place. Why take the risk? Another prisoner writing from a cell in 1963 answered, "I am in Birmingham because injustice is here. I'm compelled to carry the gospel of freedom beyond my own home." Like Dr. King, Kayla Mueller had the vision to see freedom from a cell. "Even in prison," she wrote, "I can be free. I am grateful. I have come to see there is good in every situation." She is the fourth American hostage to die. In journalists, ISIS tried to extinguish truth. With humanitarians, they tried to kill compassion. But light defines the darkness. In these deaths, ISIS is revealed, and in her words, Kayla Mueller captured the long struggle for a better world. Please be patient. Give your pain to God. Dr. King said his letter from the Birmingham jail was the longest he ever wrote. What would Kayla Mueller have done with more than one page? That's the CBS Evening News for tonight. For all of us at CBS News, all around the world, good night.